The Mantis versus Jeff again, as Krakoa is going to be the first round of this best of 3.
They've been through tough games, they've been through close games. You mentioned that we saw the game where they qualified for Atlanta. We've also seen the game where they've qualified for Guangzhou in China, where they beat Virtus Pro, to get there. And that was such a close matchup. Citadel, once again, like you said, they fight best when they are in their important matches. And we're going to see already starting off with a one-sided Mantis versus a one-sided Jeff.
I mean, Citadel Gaming have been very comfortable to move Tanuki over. Ken's also been picking it up to sort of allow some more scary triple strategist options, really, going for the Emma Frost as well. So looking for characters that just synergize onto multiple people, not just trying to hit a role in particular. You just want to make sure that it's not fun to try to build a backbone for 100 Thieves to rely on.
100 Thieves are very much trying to target Citadel where it hurts. They're going for backline pressure. You can see that Psylocke getting taken away. You can see the Venom being taken away, but that has left the opening because Citadel, they're most comfortable on that Captain America, or a newer pickup for them in this newest season, the Angela, in terms of those backline harassment. But they always seem to love the setup of a single sort of anchor Vanguard and a heavy dive Vanguard, but they have run a little bit of double dive this stage as well, which has given them a lot more options. It's going to be the Winter Soldier as the last protect for 100 Thieves. Now, what does Citadel try and remove? They take out the Loki.
So it is a lot of one-sidedness, really. There's no character that both teams are we're in agreement that this person doesn't belong in the server for either of us. We'll handshake on that. It is just one-sided Jeff, Adam, Emma, Loki versus Mantis, Venom, Psylocke and Rocket. A much more eclectic, diverse group. It is nice to see more of the Rocket being in these bands, especially when you know that Citadel Gaming have that protect. It just stops that whole Pet Cemetery composition with Rocket Raccoon. Allowing that pivot, if you do want to run triple strategist, fine, but that 2-2-2 setup with Rocket and Jeff, it holds its own surprisingly well. And the only issue is it's hard to coordinate. These guys are the most well-coordinated in the world.
We are going to be heading in here. I'm very worried about 100 Thieves getting their hands on that Mantis and the Venom. While they don't get stuff that combos with the Mantis in the form of that Loki that could have given them very wide damage boosting regeneration domains, they do still have the one-shot potential of Feast from the Abyss, which also now anti-heals. They've set themselves up for an incredible blow-up, which could of course be followed up on by Terra, who is widely considered to be one of the best duelists in the world. They have basically everything they need. Double damage boost with the Rocket potentially coming out of spawn if they want to go that way, as opposed to a second duelist, which it looks like they may be doing. Whereas Citadel, they have gone for longer fights, extra brawls, and potentially double revives.
Okay, interesting. So we saw the Captain America being protected from Citadel, so you think Polly, LeBron, Ball, he's going to play. He's going for the group to begin with, so that could be throwing up 100 Thieves. It feels like, 2 + 2 is 4. Citadel are wrong again, and slap you across the face. It's so difficult to play into, but you have got to protect onto the Bucky. It wasn't banned out in the end, so Citadel Gaming have option there. Tanuki's going to be on it.
My concern here, though, is that this is a hard map to play Adam on. There's not many spots where you can safely get a revive off without being trapped. Those buildings are basically single choke points where you can get completely zoned out and trapped after that revive. While the bonus health from revives can actually work out to allow you to sustain and turn around on those fights, it still is going to create another choke point where your opponents can try and punish you after they've potentially already wiped you once. So Melio, who is basically the master of placing these very strategic karmic revivals, is going to have to be on top form today.
Polly's actually switching over to the strange go for a ball play very early. I mean, Citadel Gaming were known for it, but it's usually Enzo that might pick it up and go for a kidnap play to begin with. But the Kraken's impact, whilst 100 Thieves have control of this objective, trying to look for a bit more. Yam Amplifier is going to increase the damage, and Tanuki's trying to isolate them. He is going to be caught up with these tendrils, and 100 Thieves, they don't need to worry too much when they have control of the point. It has taken a win that Citadel Gaming sails with trying to get the progression, but that Karmic Revival is delicious from Ken.
Ken on the clone, and they're going to very quickly transform back into Loki to try and survive the meteor wave, which they will do so, but Alex is taken down on the other side. Melio is trying to sustain through this fight, but they are dropped low. Melio is the key right here. If they can find a safe place to revive, then this fight continues, but we're already on 40%, and it looks like Citadel will let this go. They've already re-engaged, they've already ported, they've already revived once. At this point, you can't just keep feeding the machine. You have to back up, you have to reset.
It just feels like it puts so much pressure onto Tanuki to find those picks, to find those eliminations. And it is triple strategist for 100 Thieves, so they've got that sustain, they've got control of the objective, they can sit pretty, be uncomfortable with Citadel Gaming trying to isolate somebody. You've got terrifying Peel with Terra, who's a little bit under the weather, but he is a storm beckoning onto Citadel if they're not careful. Silent Seduction is trying to pull in around the side, is able to at least to get onto the Bucky, but he leaps into the sky. The Kraken's impact alongside the invisible boundary means that they can really put their foot down to keep control, and Citadel, yet again, 2/3 progression on the point, not able to take it, and it forces Melio to use the Camera Revival this time.
But they've got a better angle this time. They're able to pull back in, and that was a lot of ultimates used by 100 Thieves. Basically every tool. Alex, who was taken out first this time, finally gets off that invisible boundary, allowing him to contest this. But they're still not finding targets. Straggling Prison to try and lock them down, but
Tanuki doesn't have
them back. Millennia and Terra are taken down, while Tanuki finally has that ultimate. It might be better just to hold it until next time here, because they are going to win this fight unless they start to get picked off here. Ken drops low, picked off with ultimate, meaning they don't have the turnaround potential. And 100 Thieves are funneling back in. They started this fight 2 down, but they're turning it, and Citadel are cleaned off the point. Kraken impact from Terra, and 100 Thieves make off into the night like bandits and steal that first round after very nearly losing that fight.
That's a lot of Kraken impacts from Terra. He's just farming it up for free onto Citadel. And like, good grief, it felt that there was so many points. The main mistake there is just like Polly, he gets pulled into the fight from Terry, gets hooked in, he's about to get his ultimate, and he sort of panic uses it. Just as Tanuki was at about 95% progress, you want to get that combination between the Winter Soldier and the group with their ultimates, but he was pushed into it by Terra, who is 15-1, absolutely dominating in the server.
Selenia also keeping up a little bit there on that Mantis, is keeping them damage boosted, keeping them pushing forward here. We're going to see the same strategy for Citadel, but the fact is, this is a better map for it.
There's 2 eliminations that Citadel have got across that whole map.
Total.
Just 2, yeah. Tanuki's not being able to get too much in.
This is a better map for it because you have much better positions for Karmic Revivals. Going underneath will catch your allies in the revive area, and then you can portal back onto the objective and keep fights going. You can now do that twice, and also the area is a little bit easier to control with Loki because you can set up some lovely high ground positions on some of the pillars at the back of the actual Cradle room.
TTK is on the Doctor Strange, so that might be a case of like going for the kidnap place Citadel Gaming we're used to. Yeah, they weren't really expecting it. It's 100 Thieves going, hey, we learnt this play from EMEA from a team called Berber Patapim, potentially. We think you should have a look at it. Yeah, have you heard of it? It's a complete cleanup with the option now to actually take this point. Citadel Gaming caught out by their own cooked strategy.
Going to be an essentially full team wipe, and that will allow 100 Thieves to take control of the point. Citadel Gaming wisely not going to be using any ultimates through that. They're just going to build it up. They've already built up a Silent Seduction. They have God of Mischief, Kraken Impact, and that Karmic Revival, and they're almost towards an invisible boundary, whereas 100 Thieves, they're about to get their invisible boundary, already starting to get taken down because the aggressive play has been set up by Citadel Gaming, getting one set up already, not going to be able to get any resets on that Kraken Impact, and they do lose Tanuki in that fight after they break line of sight.
Well, you have 2 Karmic Revivals potentially set for Citadel, but they're going to be just happy to deal and clear things up. So it's only 22% that 100 Thieves have been able to claim, and Citadel finally making some progress on the objectives itself with a pretty nice fight. Just going for the portal play, catching out 100 Thieves, 2 players. There's just not enough sustain to keep everybody up.
But they have been able to flip it now, currently 22% for 100 Thieves, who took the point early, to 15 for Citadel. Lenia holding on to that invisible boundary, looking for an opening to try and take this in. The newest player on this roster, they were joining for a while, but actually became sort of a main roster member at those mid-season finals, and have since then had to just keep evolving as Kraken Impact's going to be coming in from Terra, looking for the first reset. I have Agamotto to try and capitalize, but that Battle Rebirth Beacon not yet available. This Karmic Revival also being held onto because Melio may have to respawn off to the side. Is currently they're the only one down in this with that Cosmic Yarn Amplifier. 100 Thieves sustain through that.
Yeah, a lot of ultimates used, and now they're going to be able to actually take the point back from the look. But this is where Citadel like to look comfortable. They still have those Karmic Revivals.
There's the res.
They just don't want to use them in the end, but now Melio's been forced out. Alex is going to be taken down, and it's going to be a reset. And in fact, Melio's going to be out of disengagement for the time being. Ken is now going to go for the copy, and I imagine it's more of the same. 100 Thieves are still going to be fighting this, and instead it's going to be used for an invisible boundary to keep everybody alive and keep them going.
With Melio taken down, you can't get that Karmic Revival, but you can sustain through the fight. Polly's already down though, Tanuki falls, and it's 100 Thieves. They are just able to take the defensive tools of Citadel and just outlast them. Kraken impacts 4 resets, and they are going to get the flip on this.
77%. And now for Citadel Gaming, might I remind you that they protected Jeff and Captain America, and we've not seen either of them in play. They've tried to go for something a little bit sly, maybe sort of thinking that if they lean a certain way with a draft, that it might open up more options that 100 Thieves won't be expecting. But 100 Thieves are just like, we only care about what we're doing. The characters that they protected today one-sided, they're pretty much all in play outside of the silo. 100 Thieves know how to deal with this draft, and they're following through a lot nicely, not more nicer than Citadel are.
Coming through the Mutant Gate for the setup, Karmic Revival. Not at the ready, neither is the God of Mischief. Soulbond for the sustaining of the team, so Tanuki enters with that Kraken impact, but they're just completely juggled there. They can't find anything, leaving Melio to just go for the auto cancel to make sure that they can just get as much damage output as possible onto these front lines. But with that invisible boundary, Alex has to mirror it, because otherwise we're going to start to see 100 Thieves get too close to that 100 here. The silent seduction from Enzo for the setup to try and sustain on through this feast from the abyss onto the backline. Ayabagamoto from above once again, and the backline is smashed, and again 100 Thieves forcing Citadel back to spawn.
And just as Citadel, they were like around the point but not really contesting it, so now they're fully reset out. Polly's going to switch over towards the Stranger. Having Aya Bangamoto, I think he's going to have to portal in play. He is, but I imagine 100 Thieves have a good inclination, have worked out the timing. They're going to try and reset back to the point and almost bait these other players that are hanging out in the backline. Citadel need to be very careful here.
They use the Mutant Gates to make their way back to the point quicker, using literally their opponent's teleport to make their way back in quicker. TTK dropping a lot of damage, but the healing output, the strategists of 100 Thieves are some of the best, just due to how much they enable players like Terra and TTK to play that bit further forward. Regeneration Domain about to expire, which means Terra has the opening for the setup. Here comes the God of Mischief for, I believe, the invisible boundary, so that they can try and commit to this. Polly looking for their own Eye of Agamotto onto the backline. Melio revives for the extra damage. Delena's going to be the first to fall. But is there a Battle Rebirth Beacon? There is. Bringing them back for the first setup as Terra's going to get a reset using the Loki clone. Forced to disengage with it though, finding nothing. Melio is picked off, and they do not have the cocoon to bring himself back. There's no Karmic Revival. Tanuki this time goes into the backline. Kraken impact not going to be resetting, but they are able to get the pickup as we are at 99 to 99. Tanuki falls. TTK falls. Alex is trying to sustain the team through this. Melio's running back on that Adam if he can make it. Karmic Revival's on the board, but he's got little legs and has to run all the way back in. Tanuki is down. Melio's charging in. It's full delay. Enzo is trying to take out that Cosmic Guard Amplifier to remove that bonus health, zoning them off the point as Venom is giving everything to this defense to hold as long as they can. Melio with the sustain, with the extra damage. They take out Delena on the flank. They look for Rocket. The portal comes back in for the sustain, but they are staggered, they are zoned, and it looks like Citadel are going to even us up on map number 1.
I even heard the war cry, the whoo from them at the end there, because that wasn't really like the coordinated set stuff that we saw from 100 Thieves in that first point of the Grove, but that is what makes Citadel such a scary team. Top seeds in stage 1, and just behind in second seed for stage 2. They're scrappy, they love those engagements, and even though they were leaning in a certain direction with the draft, they're able to go on to something 100 Thieves were just struggling to take down. Still, Tanuki in comparison to what Terra's doing in that head-to-head of the bookie, it's a big step in that direction. It's just hard to get a gauge on like Citadel Gaming. They were just able to like down numbers, down fights, down statistically, still able to dig their heels and fight for objectives that most teams will just have to give up.
They still have that Karmic Revival. They are almost towards a God of Mischief, meaning they are just about to have 2 Karmic Revivals to try and take that first fight. And if they can burn those early, then they're able to sustain a little bit better, and they're going to be able to potentially take that first early fight and build up potentially another Karmic Revival before the end fight of the game, as it is one of the longest ultimates to actually charge in the game. We do have a pause, so we can't unfortunately revive the game yet, but we'll be back to it as soon as we're able.
I think it was Elena that went out just like, just down for the second, but like, it happens, and I think this is, you know, Citadel got a little bit more experience with this, with just like a lot of pauses, like resets and stuff of maps, so it's a little bit like, okay, we can deal with this in this kind of instances. We played a lot lot more maps, and we just have the pace. So now, I think with that second point, we're still on the first map of this best of 3. Honestly, this could go a while in itself.
It's a best of 3, and we're probably going to see 3, if I had to guess from what we are seeing here. But that is exactly what I was talking about when that map started. That Adam Warlock composition is very good, but it requires you to have a safe place to revive. And that first map didn't. They just revived behind trees, took a load of damage, but were trying to sustain through, and they just didn't, because Kraken Impact just found the pickups every single time. That second map, they had the undergrounds, because when you go through there, there's a mutant gate that takes you directly to the portal above the objective, and you can just descend down and rejoin the fight instantly after being revived in a safe location where you can heal up and sustain through it. The location on these domination maps makes such a huge difference. It's why you'll see players swap off of Wolverines or Angelas depending on maps on Hell's Heaven, for example. It makes a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like we saw like some moments of like Citadel being victims of their own strategies with like portals, like just the Doctor Strange going through and be like,
we can also blame Guru for that one.
Yeah. But it's also like Citadel were able to do it themselves. I think Harvey's only been eliminated twice. One of them was actually Citadel being able to take that second point right at the beginning by just sort of opening the doors and Tanuki's just cracking his knuckles. And Harvey's like, I'm in danger. That's it. He's gone. He was gone in an instant. And that's somebody that's really tricksy. And with strategists, you have to be, especially when you're playing Rocket and you have a one-sided Rocket. You can't die. You need to keep yourself alive, son, because you are so mobile. You're so irritating. You take a lot of attention for Citadel.
Small hitbox, very mobile, hard to pick off, and you can self-heal yourself if you just shoot against a wall. The problem is, if you do go down, you are your team's first revive. Rocket's Battle Rebirth Beacon can obviously be picked off just based on being a standard ability, but if Rocket goes down, so does the Beacon. While the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier stays, the Battle Rebirth Beacon doesn't. And that can be devastating. If you lose Rocket early, you have essentially lost 2 players because you don't get one back.
Yeah. And it's risky, but to be fair, it was very risk-averse, I think, from Harvey up until then. It's just those kind of moments where, like, for so many other teams, they feel like, oh, we have these ults, we just need to sort of group up. We saw it a little bit earlier with Crazy Raccoon. It's like, okay, we have these ultimates, we're ready to go, we're going to step forward, and we've already lost 1 player, so let's just chill, guys, go again. And it's just almost just walking into a door over and over again. But in this case, Citadel are like, okay, they just used our strategy against us, let's just use it back. And using the Strange ult right at the start of a round is really good, because you usually have it by the end if you do need to stall. The risk was that Poly used it sort of in the middle of the map, so if they did lose that fight, they wouldn't have the portal a little later on. It's a risk, and Citadel are not afraid to take those kooky plays if they need to.
It's why you see so many players actually drop these ultimates right at the start of rounds when they've built them up on previous rounds of domination. Exactly like you say. Drop it early, you have it back later in time for the next fight. So you might as well. It's why I expect it is likely that we may see a Karmic Revival dropped early from Melio, just because they know there's a solid chance they'll be able to build it again. And the question is, Loki can just use it on anyone. They can use it on another Karmic Revival. They can use it on their own invisible boundary. They have options to keep themselves flexible and keep their team in the fight, which is why I expect we'll probably see Citadel get the first point here if they're able to get those revives. Problem is, this map is definitely not as good as Cradle for revive positions, but there are some options here.
I imagine that's a ready sound when I hear the
We're
cries.
hearing the hype-ups.
I mean, I know that there's cameras like getting some of the footage, and I hope that they've gotten around
we'll
to
get
sort of
some
check
behind the
what's
scenes,
into that.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. Like some of the stuff, like I didn't really know because I wasn't at the mid-season finals like you, but like knowing Salah from previous games, he is definitely so good at man management. Like I've watched him scrim in other games. I've seen him just succeed with underdogs, players that were just honestly underestimated at the top level in other areas. But we should be going back into game if it wasn't clear from Citadel Gaming making a lot of noise, making sure that they're awake. We certainly are. And we still have so much of the series to go. It's going to be crazy.
I'm still
listening.
Yelled at again. Also, you should just, once again, I mentioned checking out the player socials, check out the team socials as well, because Citadel have brought like the whole posse. They have like 4 people here just from management for getting footage and stuff like that. So check them out. Support your favourite team.
I like seeing American orgs in EMEA because it's usually sometimes the opposite. So I appreciate Citadel Gaming showing up. And I'm not saying that because they gave me a hat earlier on. I'm not a biased caster, I promise.
Oh boy, we are starting off Once again, you can see there's auto cancels. The way you do this is you hold right click and then you left click to cancel it. That's a great bionic hook though for the isolation onto Alex, but they're able to quickly onto Ken, sorry, but they couldn't sustain themselves with that regeneration domain. Able to get the setup. Here comes the feast from the abyss, but Soul Bond is going to allow Melio to try and sustain on through that, and you can see the damage output onto Vinny, dropping them low. Crack and Impact going to be coming in from Terra, looking for the reset with that damage reduction, with the silent seduction though from Enzo will buy them extra time, and it's going to be 100 Thieves. They don't even need the Karmic Revival, Ryan, because Citadel are pushing them back.
And they've got Paulie over on the Captain America. Finally, we start to see it really stretch through. He's already built up the Freedom Charge. Oh, Captain, my Captain, certainly from EMEA, the 17-year-old wonder child is just one of the key players to be watching. That is very biased, by the way, because he's fantastic. However, for Citadel, you're right, they have so much to sit back in the bank with, but 100 Thieves have been very good at lasting out in these top fights. And when Tanuki goes down, it forces out Karmic Revival before the fight's even ready to go from 100 Thieves.
But they've got to. They can afford to burn them quite quickly. Enzo goes down as well. But did they get that second revive? Melio gonna be dropping theirs already. Ken has already gone for the copy for an invisible boundary. Not go for a second revive because they want to try and take this fight in the long term. Millennia going to be matching with their own invisible boundary. Delena still has that soul resurgence though, with soul rejuvenation, so they can try and go for an even longer fight. Polly will have to be the counter with that freedom charge for that bonus help to try and sustain through. As Terra goes down, comes back with a BRB. Another feast from the abyss. Vinny is charging these so fast, and it's enough. That anti-heal is going to prevent the strategist from getting away here. Tanuki falls, Alex falls, and Terra continues to show why they are so feared.
They're still able to actually get the point though, like 59% on the board for Citadel. That's going to be pretty good when you were forced in to use the Karmic Revival and then they've got a Mischief to copy over an invisible boundary, which is 10% away for Alex. There's a lot that you can sit back with, but when you only have the solo duelists of Bucky, you've got Crack and Impact available on both sides, but where do you find the windows to work with it? Have Citadel got the read that there's not much strategist ultimates to rely on right now for 100 Thieves? Are you going to be able to find the right targets to focus in?
Mutant Gate, Terra not able to find the pickup there, as we will see Polly continuing to put the pressure on. Finds the Battle Rebirth Beacon. That's a pretty big pickup once again, removing some extra sustain from the side of Thieves. But Thieves, in the meantime, Vidi is causing problems in the backline. Millennia goes down, though. The Crack and Impact is good. Terra and Tanuki trading back and forth, finding resets. The Loki clones are just going down, but it's Terra who finds Tanuki and comes out ahead of that duel. Karmic Revival is so close for Melio, but they do not have the Cocoon to try and sustain this out by building that charge. It's just going to be a reset. Citadel sent back to spawn and 100 Thieves take control.
Just a final reset to make sure that the up charge can build up a little bit faster, because now the progression on this third and final point of Krakoa is just about even. Crossed over from 100 Thieves are able to take that first point and have so much more to sit back with. Citadel Gaming playing around the Karmic Revival, the Loki and the Invisible Boundary from the Invisible Women that you might need it from. Still trying to build stuff up, but the Karmic Revival is good to go. You don't want to be on the back foot instantly, and Invisible Boundary is going to be used. It's such a weird part of the map to try and contest this. It's going to force 100 Thieves back in this engagement, but they've lost Tanuki again in the neutral.
Karmic Revival coming back in, brings back Tanuki and Enzo, both the first two to go down in the second round as well. Melio goes down, but they have the Cocoon, so they can try and sustain through this, and it's worth it for them to try and bring themselves back. While Tanuki is down, if Melio comes back here, they could let Ked go for the copy and bring them back again. Really, but they waited until Tanuki respawned so that he could Strange to reinforce and come back to the fight as well. Now they have two options to keep people in this fight and keep this going. Portal comes out, pick up though, as once again, 100 Thieves are blasting them off the point. The portal is open though, and that means reinforcements from Citadel can come in as overtime starts to tick down. They're just going to push their way through the body box to try and hold it. Tanuki is touching the point on that Strange buying time. Ken's onto the Jeff to give them every sustain point for the bubbles to run onto the point to buy time as overtime ticks on down. We're ticking down to the final moments as 100 Thieves just have numbers and momentum. They take map number 1.
Enough tenacity to pull on through. It's 5-0 so far since stage 2, and this terrific run from 100 Thieves on this map. For Citadel Gaming, just not really been seeing it that much from them. It is randomized, they don't really get the choice, but Citadel Gaming were the domination team from EMEA, and here they are losing out. This is the most 55-5. I hate, as a Vanguard player, I don't like being like, oh yeah, the duelist was the differentiating factor. You cannot argue that it wasn't for Terra. That was a god tier performance.
Terra's built different. It's just as simple as that, but so much of that comes down to their strategists enabling them. Delena, the Mantis was let through, damage boost onto Terra means that they were finding those pickups consistently. That actual use of that Cosmic Yarn Amplifier for the damage boost, the Seer from Rocket, means that they're getting the resets and the finishing blows more, and you can see that in the difference. While we did see some good contention from Tanuki, who found quite a few pickups, it's 6 to 23 in the final hits, and when you are a Winter Soldier, the final hits are what matters, because that's what resets your Kraken impact. So being able to try and set that up is such a huge deal, and terrifying is the key phrase here, because they just are.
He terraformed as well, because Citadel just flatlined them out.
Oh, I like it. Nice.
It's
Which ones have what it takes to become the best of the best?
The fight is gonna happen right here, right now.
A first map in this best of 3 series. Citadel taking 100 Thieves to the limit with the double revive composition. But 100 Thieves are just so strong. They were able to get them hands on that Mantis, and the Winter Soldier proved just a little bit againy? Would that be the right word here? There was too many agains. That's what I'm saying.
It was repetitive, so you're able to sort of bring out just, like,
that's better. That's better.
Resurrection's been brought in from the Camera Revival, but 100 Thieves never seem to be that flustered about it. Like, oh yeah, you've just like resurrected 4 players with the Adam Warlock ultimate.
With padding Terra
yeah.
stats.
Yeah, Terra is like more like picks, I suppose, to sacrifice himself to. But here, it's really a case of Citadel going, there's only one choice of map that they were going to go to, and it's similar to what we saw before. Yggdrasil was the 3rd map in that Crazy Raccoon series as they were able to sort of pick up that domination first time around. But here, it's not a bad map for 100 Thieves either. In Stage 2, they're 5-2 on it. It's just the fact that Citadel are 7-0, also beating Virtus Pro for the first time ever on this map fairly recently. And that's a lot because Virtus Pro have been playing together as a main squad of 5 to 6 players since over a year, which is crazy because the game hasn't been out over a year yet.
Just to remind y'all why my co-caster is the best here. Usually we can just hear in our ear what the next map is, but just before we came back on camera, Ryan just leans over to the microphone and just goes, "So the next map's Yggdrasil, right?" Just before we were even told anything, told production what the next map is.
Well, it's just like you can sort of see it from distance. The stats is just a big blue number because like Citadel it's so used to actually being on the back foot. Like this isn't a team. Same with Na'Vi, same with Virtus Pro at this rate. Like none of them are super dominant in the same way that we saw like Envy or FlyQuest being up until the very end of like America's group stage. America take chunk outs of each other, and even teams like Chopped and FaZe looking very scary. Like unsigned teams actually put in good efforts against the top echelon of EMEA. Citadel are kind of used to taking a beating and being able to roll with it, and so in this case they have to rely on Yggdrasil. If this doesn't go well, that's a hell of a statement to make from 100 Thieves. If they 2-0 here and win on Yggdrasil for the first time against Citadel where they've not lost it for a while, that says a lot about their chances this event, I think.
The chances at this event are just going up and up for both these teams. The fact is, both are still looking to make it through. We could easily see either of these teams going through, and they don't even need the help of a higher power. Neither does, despite while praying to one, Daredevil, our newest character into the game. Quick reminder, because there's a solid chance we could see him in this match.
Yeah, we've not really seen him so much.
Not really?
Yeah, like, I mean, we've seen him a little bit in some of the other streams and stuff, but especially when we look at some of the plays beforehand, yeah.
Well, let's have a look.
Forgive me for what I am about to do. I see you. You've been judged. Face the devil. Wrath of the beast. Hellfire. On the hunt. Let the devil out! Ruthlessness is mercy.
There's a reason that I directed you to this Daredevil, because we have, in the form of Citadel, one of the teams that was really the main user of Black Panther in previous stages, especially at those mid-season finals, in the form of Tanuki being very scary to deal with. Pokey also played a little bit of melee from time to time, but this team is so flexible, and Daredevil has been sneaking into a lot of these games so far, and I really want to highlight that if we're looking for something to really mix it up a bit, that's a solid choice.
Especially when you can combine that with Poly, because we saw that a little bit earlier in that Yggdrasil on Crazy Raccoon, so you're right, it is a perfect map to see Tanuki potentially pull it out. I'm also curious because we did see that prioritization of the Protect onto Jeff Nato. It was Citadel that sort of coined
also
it to an extent, but it was weird. Like teams are different. I think Melio's even sort of said to me, because I remember talking about it, like when you protect a character, is it a little bit problematic that you don't actually end up playing them? And he's like, it depends, because it's more like protecting, making sure that you keep as many options as possible, even if you don't intend to use them, because you don't want to be isolated to one comp, because if you get stuck on paper and they go scissors, you can't change to rock.
The fact is, Citadel did not play Jeff for the entirety of that first round until they swapped for the final portal, just so they could have bubbles on the point and at least try and sustain.
Yeah.
But having options is going to be important. And we're talking about options, mid-season finals, one of the most banned players in particular in terms of target bans was Polly. You mentioned them earlier.
Yep.
And that is because their Captain America is quite frankly terrifying. But they have other options. They have so many new things, including one of our other new characters, which I will highlight while we wait for the game to finish being set up. Of course, the Daughter of Heaven herself, Angela.
My birth and past are tainted. I fight to reclaim them each day. For heaven! Straight to hell! Glorious! Thoughts and prayers! Blessed blades! To battle! Feathered fury! Now is the time for salvation! Heaven! Fall! Weaklings! Overconfidence will destroy you.
And we are into the draft. We filled enough time, Ryan. We're heading into Yggdrasil Path, which would be a solid map for Angela, just on a theming basis, but also just very quick rotations back from spawn if you are on the defense, which 100 Thieves will be starting on.
So far, the Jeff insta-ban for Citadel, one side in it. I hope to see it. I mean, it would make more sense here. And 100 Thieves, yeah, the Sharknado was definitely something that was scary in the end. You're going to make sure that that team up with Venom isn't available. You're never going to ban out the Storm. It's been so long since we've seen that. But you have to respect it.
Season 1 would probably be like the last time we banned Storm, when she got her Omega Hurricane buffed, and then it was just Groot Storm literally every single game.
Yeah.
So, not going to be... Sorry, I just glanced over at our other casters on the other stream, and they were just having a dance party after a cast. Sorry. But we're seeing that Adam Warlock getting taken away. This is by Citadel, who were the ones to play it a little more consistently last time. And again, they've given 100 Thieves the Mantis.
Yeah, the Psylocke was another ban that we saw coming out of 100 Thieves. That seems to go a long way. Whatever idea they have, they're following the same draft that we did see on Krakoa. Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this is also a game mode where you do see a lot more pressure being put onto the Emma Frost, especially trying to play more triple Vanguard, triple strategist. 100 Thieves are just like, no, we have this one idea, this one concept that we want to roll out with, and you can't say that they didn't make use of the Mantis and Bucky in the last map that we just saw. It was the two MVPs.
It just works. Quite frankly, it just works. So we're going to see the last Protect for Citadel here. They have themselves a Jeff. They will not have a Venom. What do you choose to capitalize here? What do you protect? They protect the Emma. This is a big factor on this map. The majority of teams that do win on this, it's not everyone, but the majority do usually try and secure themselves Emma.
They did protect the cap last time. That's not going to be hit, but the Strange is. I mean, we see it a little bit more just to stop any portal plays from happening. And I remember, so I did the interview with Na'Vi, and Fate was saying, they were talking about a game that they had, Na'Vi against Citadel, and he was like, I don't remember that game, because it was on Yggdrasil, I think. It's like, yeah, Paulie managed to stay on the point for 7 minutes. Oh god, yeah, I remember that. Instant, PTSD flashbacks from him. And so, Citadel do kind of rely a lot on these kind of stall plays. We saw it a little bit on Krakoa, but certainly on a map where the objective is moving and you have overtime to rely on, Citadel can really manage to make that work. Not having the Strange, however, to work with, that's going to hit you. And it wasn't the rocket ban this time either.
No rocket ban, meaning that we have revives available for the teams. One-sided Adam Warlock potentially, so there are opportunities, especially with not being able to portal back for Citadel to try and delay this. But for now, they start on attack, so we don't need to worry about that as much here. And already we're looking at that Punisher, which is going to be fantastic because Vinny is loading us in on their extremely strong Groot. But Citadel, they once again do not have portal back, so we immediately see the rocket to make sure that they have that extra sustain, the quick revives, and they're also looking at the Wolverine. Never mind, they're going back to the Storm. That is more what we expected.
The interesting thing about the draft so far is that every pick has been non-mirrored. There's not really been a case of, we both want to get rid of Mantis, we both want to get rid of Jeff. It is just like 8 characters taken out, 4 on each side, having to work with. Tanuki's going to be over on the Storm, just trying to form in a reckoning. TTK is going to be broken down, but the Bira back means that he's back in this engagement. Unfortunately, his Vanguard counterpart Vinny has gone down too.
What a start from Citadel as they pick up 2. Preventing any BRB value. They take out Terror as well. That is actually a little bit rough because that means with Terror going down quickly means the portal will come in, and that's before the card even starts moving because they're literally just throwing bodies at the card because they know they're all about to come back through portal. We will see 100 Thieves wait a little bit to make sure that everyone is respawned and grouped back up so that they can all come and contest together, and we go for that defensive portal location facing away from their opponents so it's harder for them to get caught out and they can use it for cover.
Going in for the fight, the group wall is going to try and stop people from coming in, even force the Terror to not use this the portal as a little bit of a barrier to stop some of this damage, mitigate it away from these tight choke areas. So 100 Thieves now having to use the portal quite early on, and it forces Terror off of that duelist role. Now you've got the final judgment combined with Polly with the Strangling Prison. There's not much to go with. This is a good map for Citadel to work with, and it's moments like that is why they're some of the strongest in EMEA.
And that's just one of their big ultimates here. They're still building up towards the Mega Hurricane, which they have the Jeff for. So Jeff Nado to break the last defense. Terror takes to the sky with that Cloak of Levitation for some kind of sustain, some kind of delay. But honestly, they're just starting to get zoned out. They're trapped away from the cartridges. They're trapped away from their team. They're having to rotate through the inside just to try and get back to the point in time.
They're like, oh, their strategist is behind us. Let's just keep moving and see you later. Tanuki actually able to find a pick. The invisible boundary is going to be used, and the Omega Hurricane's going to come in. I mean, it's Jeff is going to be used right at the end to just get it to duration to go a little bit longer to clear stuff off. But there's still a chance for 100 Thieves to be holding on here, but there's only 3 meters left. There's no portal play. Citadel have them on the ropes, but there's a good amount of actual defenders here. That this might not be as clean cut for Citadel as you might have assumed.
Enzo falls down, Tanuki goes down, and suddenly they're forced to regroup. But like you said, there's only 5 meters left to go as Citadel are just going to be able to regroup and set up. But they've burned all of their main setups here. The Omega Hurricane into the Jeff Nado only found 1 or 2, while TTK went down, who is on the Angela, by the way, for the reinforce, so they can contest even longer. They were still able to get Deleda onto it with the Soul Rejuvenation. So they had the tools to find the right positioning. Assassin's Charge not finding its target, though.
Citadel Gaming using a lot to play with. Maybe some ultimate combinations out of sync. We saw it a little bit on Krakoa earlier. Not quite connecting onto this first checkpoint here, and there's a bit of an overextend from Enzo, looking to go in the fight. Controller player pretty much in the back line, and now there's the combination of the damage amplified from the arm for Harvey, as well as that Heaven's Descent, slamming people down. Final Judgment is actually going to be used as a riposte, but you're still losing players. In fact, Citadel, with all of this damage, they're able to actually turn it around onto Terror, but just by the skin of Melio's teeth.
Invisible Boundary, though, is going to buy even more time, and this is just burning through the clock for Citadel. Polly goes down. Melio is forced to back up here. They won that fight, but it delays long enough for 100 Thieves to come back and still keep this car stalled.
Now they have some ultimates, but every time that Enzo literally just got the sign of seduction, now he's just throwing it out. There's enough numbers going down, but you can see just how separated 100 Thieves are. Now trying to group up off the back of the Soul Resurgence, but 3 players are hit by the Eye of Agamotto. Terror switching over to a completely different role for the portal player, stayed on his character ever since, and he yet again has turned the fight around in favor for 100 Thieves.
Forcing them back. Captain America
seconds.
for Polly. They're going to have to run in and touch it, but they're caught! Assassin's Charge might hold them off the point in time. Omega Hurricane going to have to be dropped to just try and contest this. They have Jeff. This is potentially the last chance for Citadel because 100 Thieves are holding up the defense. Jeff Nado to try and delay. They've got someone on the card. They're dropping good damage. They're chasing down the lane. They're going to be able to pick them off. Millennium comes back at the Battle Rebirth Beacon, meaning it's down to this last brawl fight. Terror falls again. They could try and portal back because it's potentially back off cooldown, but it's not going to matter as Citadel in overtime break the siege eventually. TTK's delaying.
Question mark?
They can't hold it. They cannot hold that any longer.
And they held it for pretty much the max amount of time. It was just Citadel and overtime, name a better duo. But might I remind you, the Citadel don't have access to the Doctor Strange, so there's not really that many safety nets, that security, that extra thing to rely on when things go wrong. So Citadel, we're pretty much at the end of their tether potentially. Could have been full held against the 100 Thieves on a map that they are the most dominant in the world at.
The longer we burn through for 100 Thieves, even if they get triple capped here, the longer they burn through Citadel's Wick, the better situation they have. Because if we go to that overtime, they have the portal, they can re-engage, they have the better chance in overtime. So this is what they're trying to do, just make as much time away from Citadel as possible. But Citadel are trying to commit to this fight. That is an incredible psionic seduction, pulling them in, and 100 Thieves are just wiped off the board here. And already we're seeing the push up. Terra is already in position though to portal them back in, and they may be looking for a second contest.
I mean, they did so well on first. You want to try and go for a similar plan on second, especially you do have the damage amplifier as well with the Feast of the Abyss that Vinny has available. Yeah, they're deciding to hold on to it because they could just sort of walk there. But look how much Citadel just pushed on through with a final Judgment Freedom charge just to just give themselves a bit more of a boost. 100 Thieves tried to go for they tried to go for more like simple, straightforward play. They thought that they had time, and Citadel just completely cut them off.
Literally, they ran into point 3 before they've even capped, just to zone them away, to keep them off the point. Down goes Rocket, no portals, and that is Citadel. They took a while to break that first point, the reinforcements proving very tough to deal with, but this is the Citadel we expect to see. Now they've broken that first point, it's all aggression. It's all aggression all the time, and they are struggling. 100 Thieves not having the reactions to this.
I mean, they haven't really had the chance to reset either. You can see that Polly is getting very involved into the backline, actually takes out Terra. The Be Right Back is used up pretty early on, and the Feast of the Abyss is actually going to be used prematurely maybe for 100 Thieves. They're able to get some picks and trade things out, but it still feels that this is both teams trying to set up and posture for the next engagement. You've got big ultimates being used to try and keep momentum going, or to swing it back against Citadel.
They're buying as much time as they can before they drop this Omega Hurricane. Coming on in with the Jeff to trap them down. Media M actually to avoid that. They take out Tanuki. They take out Ken. They just countered that completely. We see Enzo down as well, and that timer is starting to look real skinny.
I mean, that's a call for TDK to make. Just using it to be unCCable, able to sort of escape just in this finer moment, but able to get a pick off the back of it. It's crazy stuff. Polly's trying to dive in to be a little bit more threatening, and it's in fact forced out the counter dive. You saw Vinny just leap in to the Savior Magneto to sort of peel away some of that damage. You've now got Terra that's over on the Bucky, away from that Doctor Strange, trying to go for the hooks. The Kraken's impact, able to get one, but there's no resets available. Citadel Gaming are giving this a wide berth to make sure that Terra can't have the same amount of success as he had on Krakoa.
Dive comes in, delays for Vinny, continuing to just burn through this quick. We're down to the final minute. Melio has that final judgment. Enzo dropped low, so they're going to create an opening. Freedom charge for the movement speed buff to push onto the point, but it's full evasive maneuvers. Everyone is fleeing. Psionic seduction to bring them out of hiding. And finally, Citadel are creating an opening. They're trying to trap Vinny to force them, to stop them from escaping. A Scourge Grenade could lock them down. They prevent the swing, and the cart continues to move. But we are 30 seconds remaining. 100 Thieves will be respawning before this final point. And now it's all about how well Citadel can hold zone and try and stagger the members of 100 Thieves.
You hear these like coordinated war cries coming in from Citadel Gaming as well, which feel like full stops, exclamation marks, with how this coordination is working together with the amount of ultimate synergies. However, 100 Thieves, now that we get into that last 10 seconds of regulated time of Citadel's attack, the pick has gone in their favor. They are very far away. They have to leap in as and when needed, but 100 Thieves are going to try and put their bodies in the way. Able to touch, it's in LT.
Tanuki's up to 90%. They've lost Alex though, meaning there's not going to be any extra healing from the Invisible Woman. No Guardian Barrier. Tanuki falls pre-ult. Ken falls pre-ult. And 100 Thieves are smashing through Citadel. There's no portal. There's no cap. And there's no hope for a triple cap, as 100 Thieves are able to hold it on 2 points with 90 meters, 41 centimeters.
Decent considering it looked like Citadel Gaming could have been full held on first with how much time 100 Thieves bought up. And really the only moments that we've seen that looked a bit rough for Citadel is just out of sync ultimates, right? The Sharknado, it was Tanuki being a little bit late. That could have been a really good time set if they were able to win that fight on the first engagement really. But 100 Thieves managing to time the fights, throw themselves into engagements where they're down in numbers to just keep stalling for as much time as possible. They know how to butter the bread on maps like Yggdrasil's Path, and even with both teams moving away from triple Vanguard, triple strategies for the most part, you're still seeing that kind of same strategy in play.
No portals back for Citadel, so we of course see that rocket, but they're not going to go extra ambitious. There was a chance, if they really wanted to, where they could just try and just go for potential extra sustain, but you can see in these bans, it's a hard situation for them to actually bring themselves back in while that Doctor Strange is taken away. They did have access to, for example, the Adam Warlock and the Loki. They could have tried to sustain themselves that way. Citadel, they banned those away from 100 Thieves.
Yeah, Tanuki and Melio having more final hits than the entirety of 100 Thieves combined. Nice to see that your duelist duo, even when they're not playing the duelists, still are able to find so much. And certainly for Citadel, when they were running the triple strategies, they missed a bit of that lethality, perhaps. Now 100 Thieves attacking themselves. We saw a brief look at Torch, but they've moved over to Terra on the Bucky, and Delane is actually going to bring out the storm themselves.
So they're going forward, just a quick reset. They could of course use that Bionic Hook to try and isolate members of Citadel, who have gone extremely aggressive. Captain America and the Angela for the setup. They've got the Zootopia backline in the form of that Jeff and the Rocket. Enzo's dropping low, but they have a lot of healing with this setup.
Now Enzo, full charge up with the left click, seeing exactly where that dive's going to come in, try and peel for it, as it really is just the Groot of Vinny, able to catch through, a little bit of a combination with Harvard. It's going to force the Beer back out for Citadel Gaming. Quite early on in this fight, as 40 seconds has passed so far, now you've got the Kraken's Impact used in an instant response with the invisible boundary from Alex.
They're able to hold on through, no resets. Enzo tanks through the remainder here, with Alex going to be losing the rest of that. They're going to be reliant on the It's Jeff, which they're using defensively this time, trying to find in their way into the backline. Finds only the enemy Angela, so it's a full retreat to come out. Sorry, a friendly Angela. So Ken just moves back into position to heal up. Those Groot walls are proving extremely problematic for Citadel.
You have got the Strangling Prison for Vinny. It's what opportunity you're going to use it in. Actually, yeah, you've got the Omega Hurricane specifically focused on Ken. That's not how Jeff Nato works. He got isolated in that fight. He doesn't want to see it on the other side. And now it means the Citadel have to back up, try and buy a bit more time. They don't have Strange Portal, so they have to do it by foot.
They're trying to make their way back in. They have some extremely fast rotations, though. They have Jeff, they have Angela, they have Rocket, they have Cap. All of these are so fast for rollouts. Psionic Seduction for the sustain. They're trying to use the Groot Walls for at least a little bit of zoning, but they're going to try and trap in Vinny, but they're tanking through with the Soul Rejuvenation. Strangling Prison for the turnaround, and the engage from Citadel is being shut down. It looks like 100 Thieves are going to get this first point because there's no portals to sustaining here. Polly going to buy at least a couple extra seconds, once again doing exactly what 100 Thieves did, by trying to just melt through that timer. But 100 Thieves, they do make better time than Citadel.
Not too much left in the end. 4.5 minutes to try and push for a second and a little bit of third. For Citadel Gaming, if they change up too much, yeah, Melio's moved over towards the Adam Warlock, and you have got Polly that's now moved over away from the Cap back onto Groot to try and combine with what Tanuki's doing on the Bucky with that Kraken's Impact.
Polly is an incredible group player. Giving them that opening could be exactly what they need, but TTK building up towards an Eye of Agamotto for himself on Strange and being given a portal back means that Citadel basically have to win twice as many fights in these. Melio trying to match that with that Karmic Revival option that they decided not to use on the first setup, but they've got a much better setup here. It's Jeff for the sustain, going for the Swallow Kraken Impact, not going to be able to find a huge pickup. Delena takes out Melio though, who will be able to come back from the Maker Coup with Eye of Agamotto into the backline, invisible boundary to sustain on through, and it's working! They hold the line, Omega Hurricane just to try and take down the fish, and they get him! Ken is taken out.
It feels a little bit personal at this rate, and it's just a Citadel trying to set up. Counter Revival is going to be forced in to try and bring some people back. Polly's gone down, so he's going to be brought in, and Terra's now looking to get some more resets in, a little bit far away from having a Kraken's Impact, but this Counter Revival is finding its money's worth as the entirety of Citadel Gaming were wiped just then.
And they are being pulling back 100 Thieves with that Psionic Seduction, trapping them with the Groot Wall, and Citadel Gaming are starting to create quite the containment here. They are going far out here, trapping Vinny, and they set up a beautiful choke point there. They're going to pull back here into the main doorway so that they don't overextend and have to fight through a healing spawn door. But this, Citadel were able to turn this round, this draft adaptation, working well for them, but they did just burn Karmic Revival, which is a long cooldown, and with that group proving to be a problem, it's time for Delena to adjust.
He's got a third of the percent ready for Melio. In fact, he's almost halfway. You have got Strangler Prison, Kraken's Impact as well as a combination. Might want to use it now for 100 Thieves as they're trying to set up. Wolverine is a swap over for Delena to try and really make it a little bit more of a scrappy fight. Punish Polly that's moved over towards that Groot. And now that Strangling Prison Kraken's impact with Tanuki and Polly hasn't really found all that much.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a bulwark to actually protect the Wolverine there, just as he was hooked in from Tanuki, able to survive. And 100 Thieves, they have bodies on the objective, but it's not moving anywhere just yet.
They're able to take out Melio, who does not have Cocoon. It's Jeff for the extra healing and see if they can get into any of those backliners. Find a light, they can get the Wolverine. It could be huge, which they do. The damage output is big. They really want Ken, but Ken really wants Logan. Going to take him all the way, trying to ferally back onto the point. And it looks like Wolverine survived.
Only just. And everybody else actually from Citadel is going down in that whole engagement. Seems that they were trying to do what 100 Thieves were doing and just trying to go for like the Storm play, trying to catch people, isolate them, take them out of this engagement. But it hasn't worked for Citadel. You've got 90 seconds left on the clock. And the Wolverine hiding, making sure that if Citadel Gaming go for this fight, it has to be for this choke point. He's going to try and go for the Silent Seduction off the back of the dive. And Tanuki goes down from Terror.
Looking for the opening. Tanuki once again going to be the first to fall. Karmic Revival dropped early. They can't take this without Tanuki. They need to build up that ultimate charge. Delay, they're going to get zoned away a bit. Falls behind the walls to make sure that they have the sustain. And Citadel, they're throwing everything at this because they know they have to. Basically, every single fight facing the Abyss inside the doorway. Takes out Melio. But they have Cocoon this time so they can come on back. Straggling Prison from Polly. Looking for the first setup. But final judge, final stand coming in with Wolverine with the percentage damage to try and burst on through that front line. But they're just taking too much damage. That Sonic Vortex zones them away from the point. Meteor M taking out Enzo as 100 Thieves are just picking up slowly, but they're finally picking up. Tanuki finally opens up. Kraken Impact takes out one. Looks for the backline. The group wall is able to zone them away, but this time they've got that soul mod for the strategist healing, taking them down. 30 seconds. Portal available for 100 Thieves if they want to come back for one more.
They have to, really. It could be Citadel making this 1-1 in this series. And there's no ultimates to rely on outside of the It's Jeff for Ken. Are they going to be? They're going to have to try and touch it. I think Vinny's going to have to try and sneak in. They're going to try and save the Strange for a little bit later, hoping that they can get some more. They expect to sort of be able to finish out the second checkpoint and maybe go for the third.
Vinny's just going to rush the backline. He's going to dive the point. If they can knock him out, they tried Force Physics, not able to get so Vinny will touch. Buys time for overtime. They have that symbolic resilience
Oh, look, his
for
health!
some kind of delay. Drops low, sustains for the overhealth for one more fight. They're healing up. They're going to try and use that Cloak and Dagger to build ultimate charge really quickly. Invisible Boundary comes down. It's Jeff! It's a triple! Running away off the point! And Citadel Gaming even up the score!
It's their map. It's their home. They're going to make sure that 100 Thieves, even though we're on American soil, are not going to get anything done here. 100 Thieves not being bad at this map at all in the slightest at stage 2, but Citadel Gaming just know how to make it work. And finally we're starting to see that Adam Warlock, that Jeff, the focus of like getting Polly on the Captain America. It's all starting to align for Citadel Gaming. It's looking good, and they're sounding good as well from the response that we heard from the players.
They are hyped, they are full of energy, and that was 100 Thieves. They basically had everything they needed for that. They had Venom, delay enough for the point, they were pushing up, they had Cloak and Dagger who was building up towards an ultimate, they had an invisible boundary on the point. That probably could have sustained them long enough to build up an eternal bond, which maybe they then could have sustained through, and Melio probably wouldn't have had Karmic Revival in time. But Ken, with the game-saving play, 3-man, it's Jeff, eating them off the point and taking out 100 Thieves, evening up the score and taking us to a map number 3.
Being able to pull out 4K healing as well. Like,
he's pretty good.
And when he had so much of the focus as well from the Storm on the other side, like 100 Thieves had some really nice ideas. I really like taking out the Strange just at the end, because some teams do it, but I don't think Citadel have had that against them all that much, realistically. So it keeps them on their toes, but that's the kind of position that they like to be in. Unfortunately, I would say that there's only one map that 100 Thieves would take us to at this rate, is Jalia, but I think all of the Convergence maps for Citadel are a little bit not as dominant as they would be on Convoy, right? So I think the advantage for 100 Thieves is still there going into map 3.
We'll be finding out if it is Jalia. One's going to be 100 Thieves map choice, and they'll get to choose whether they attack or defend. So don't go anywhere. We apologize for the breaks, but the teams need to set up. We need to give them time to use bathrooms. They are human. So we will be right back with the final map of today. Who is going to take the lead in this group? Will it be 100 Thieves or will it be Citadel? Make sure you stay around to find out.
Which ones have what it takes to become the best of the best?
The fight is gonna happen right here, right now.
Back for our final game of today, and it's to decide the leader in Group B. 100 Thieves took a solid first set. Citadel bringing it back on their map of choice. And you've done a little bit of research. We have been told that we are going to Symbiotic Surface. What have you learned?
It was not what we expected, really. It is a 4-0 map for, 3-0 for 100 Thieves. It is a common pick for them, but not necessarily like the main one. They try to divvy it up a bit more. But for Citadel, they've only played it once. This is 100 Thieves essentially saying, like, we have the read here. We don't really care too much what Citadel Gaming are doing, which makes sense considering the draft between Krakoa and Yggdrasil has been essentially the same from them. It's like a cookie-cutter format that they're trying to follow to put Citadel onto the back foot. But for here, Citadel, we haven't really seen that much of it since like mid-season finals.
We don't get a lot of Symbiotic Surface in our region at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, both teams tend to like avoid it like the plague to an extent, especially when there's like more focus on Central Park. There's a little bit more, I suppose, on Jalia, especially, which we assumed would be the case because it's been an abhorrent map, I think, for Citadel Gaming with their form losing it to Crazy Raccoon earlier. You would have assumed that 100 Thieves would go, yeah, we can give it a crack there, but instead they found something. It's whether it works out.
It's less of a gamble than Heart of Heaven. Let's at least put it that way. That is, of course, in the pool. We have yet to see it, at least in any of the games that we have cast, but it is there. We're just going to stick with what the teams are comfortable with as we go through, at least for now.
There's a content idea, I think, for playoffs. It's just like which team is going to be picking Heart of Heaven first. Because we're also guessing who's going to be making playoffs, I think, at that rate. Because I think it's going to be playoffs by the time we see it, I think. Unless OUG, Crazy Raccoon, Rejects are like, we're going to bring it out now. Because teams are going to be prepared on it, but I imagine they're going to be very secretive on what kind of comp, strats, ideas, and where you're taking the fights. Because they're so important in game modes like this hybrid one where you need to take the objective and then move the payload along.
We're getting set up for our next map very shortly. When you look at this map, Strange actually falls down in priority for the first point, but raises for the second. This is due to the fact that the first defender spawn actually has some really weird tunnels that make it very hard to place a portal for those initial rollouts. You actually have to find the right rotations, and that can take a little bit longer and make it harder for a defense, so you'll oftentimes see a little more priority on the first point, at least for stuff like the rocket, to try and sustain on through, and also Groot rises up in priority here quite a bit. In terms of attackers, though, Strange is invaluable because it is a long walk from attacker's spawn to that first point.
Yeah, we even see like Mr. Fantastic used from Saipei to be the barrier to protect the Doctor Strange whilst he puts up the portal. So, you know, Citadel loved their portal plays, but we did see it just banned out in that second map of Yggdrasil. So I don't know if it's enough of a weight to it to do it, but I guess it wasn't a bad idea, I think, in the end for 100 Thieves. It's just, what are they going to choose now that they've dropped that map? And the first map so far of the Grand Finals event here in Atlanta.
There's only one way to find out, and that's us head into the draft to find out where these teams choose to go in terms of characters. We start to have a look. We're looking at, of course, these big defensive characters. We start to look at stuff like the Venom for a little bit of harassment, of course, and just due to the value. The Mantis, when you're on attack, that sieging power is good. Rocket, raise in priority. And finally, Citadel remove Mantis.
Yeah, so far it's been Mantis or Jeff, so both teams really feels like Citadel Gaming having to basically say like, okay, yeah, we can't let it happen here. It's not an amazing map for Jeff because you don't have as many environmental picks that you can get outside of some like key areas, but also just Mantis seems to work in so many different comps, and the Emma Frost Protect from 100 Thieves, it can be protected here if Citadel want to. Are they going to choose something else instead? No, they're going to match it. In fact, this is looking very similar so far to what both teams are trying to run.
If we see an Adam ban from 100 Thieves, then we're full mirror so far. Again, this is a map where Adam gets a lot of value, but no, we just see the Jeff taken out. Prioritizing, of course, Tanuki and Ken, who can cause some extreme chaos when it comes to that Jeff, with Tanuki being the innovator, and now that it being a bit more of a heal focus, it's going to be Ken who's really taken up the torch when it comes to that.
Bucky Psylocke. I mean, the Psylocke has been free for free so far with 100 Thieves, regardless of what side that they start on. And they chose to attack first, actually. So Citadel Gaming on the defense wanted to make sure that Bucky isn't in play, which makes sense because Terra, despite him being a little bit under the weather, is pretty much putting the Citadel Gaming under with some of the plays that we've been seeing out of the Bucky.
So finally removing that from the board immediately with that Winter Soldier taken away, they remove the Groot. When you look at Groot, there's a couple counters, the main ones being Winter Soldier. How do you counter Groot? You remove him from his team and pick him off early by just forcing a mispositioning. The Punisher, because he burns through walls extremely quickly. Moon Knight, because he is able to just bounce off those Groot walls and set up extremely quickly. And Wolverine, for the same reason as the Winter Soldier. So with one of those big options removed, we see Groot banned away and 100 Thieves. They're going to secure it for themselves, taking the risk of running it into that Winter Soldier.
Yeah, seeing what kind of synergies, team-ups that you want to connect, going for the Hela instead. Nice idea, and it's the first time, like, so far for the series, all of, like, the bans that have come in have been non-mirrored. Up until at Mantis, where both teams shook hands and went, yep, no Mantis on this map, please, in this final map of the final best of 3 of today, day 1 of the Grand Finals. Nobody's lives, career lives, I suppose, in this tournament are up at stake yet.
No, this
but
will just make it 1-1.
Yeah, and it's like, good seeding is always important. You're going to fight for it. But it's also bragging rights, I think, for both sides. Citadel Gaming want to look sharp, and seeing some of the other teams dropping maps from other teams that aren't Americas, it shows that it's a lot closer. Not only from Americas, but also from Asia, China, Pacific. It's a scary bunch.
Everyone is in the running right now. OUG, they may sit at 0-2, but they're still in the running. We have, of course, Crazy Raccoon. They are 0-2. They're still in the running. And Reject are literally dominating their group right now, putting on an incredible performance. So we are heading in with everything up in the air for our final map of our first day of play. We're seeing that Adam Warlock coming in, and this time they've brought the Loki.
The battle starts in 5.
Ooh, it's tense. I actually seen Terra maybe lock in the Jean Grey a little bit. No portal play off of the rip.
Yeah.
It is just that kind of rip one you approach, like you said, getting your steps in from distance, trying to just get those connections in when the Jean Grey for Terra is forced away from the book. He has to go into something a little bit different, but a character that has been knocked down in value so far in that duelist role.
Tanuki going to be sieging from above, looking for an opening, just trying to keep the pressure on. Terra, they were literally the Jean Grey from Stage 1 mid-season finals. They are trying to continue to find that opening here, try and burst through bonus health, try and just get these quick blow-ups. Strangling Prison into Ensom Inferno. Basically a one-shot for most people. Melio just keeping the healing up, at least for the moment. And of course, once again, going for those attack cancels. As more hits you get with Adam, the quicker your healing comes down.
No progression really being made so far from 100 Thieves. A minute has almost been bought up. Both squads wanted to try and build up these ultimates, see what they can grab first. But for Melio, it's a case of just waiting things out, trying not to be too offensive with these plays. And the attempt has gone in actually over onto Polly that's playing the Venom just because he leaps in. It seems 100 Thieves want to try and cut him across and make sure that he's not able to get through. And Song Inferno doesn't get too much, but it's the first ultimate farmed up. A Citadel are sitting on 6 right now.
Silent Seduction going to be dropped open, as well as the clone from Harvey. Visible Boundary is going to be traded out. It's going to be Delena dropping their Visible Boundary first, and the Silent Seduction from Enzo shuts down Harvey. He can't use his cloned ultimate. Tanuki resets through, and we are seeing 100 Thieves sent back to spawn, and they are happy about it.
Yeah, he's like, there's only one Bucky in the server. Quite literally, because I banned it out, but you get the point. Like, it feels like it's a little bit more specific, but I think Tanuki realizing that in that first map that Citadel lost, it was pretty much a diff on the side of Terra. Now forced away onto the Jean Grey. Very close to farming up another Endsong Inferno, mind you, but a lot of the ultimates that 100 Thieves had used up, and they're still free to sit back on for Citadel.
TTK just sieging in, trying to create an opening, and of course charge up that Emma Frost damage. Polly on the flank, on the Venom this time, which was allowed over to them. While they didn't get the Jeff, they do still have this as a great setup. Damage boost with the Tether to push on in. We see a Karmic Revival coming on in from Melio to bring back the team. Tanuki is taken down. Melio needs to find that body so that they can get the revive onto the fight. Enzo comes back after being taken down by Vinny, and Terra picked off by Melio on the match, meaning that we're seeing as much healing from Millennia coming in as possible, but the point control is looking good for Citadel with the clone. It's Invisible Boundary. Millennia's just going to try and remove them from the healing with the It's Jeff to try and take them off the point. The fish is fleeing and they're absconding with your team.
They're trying to be chased down. Melio gets picked off, does have the life cocoon, so he's trying to get back to somewhere safe, but it means that the rest of Citadel Gaming are trying to peel away to help protect him, which means that they're getting off at the point. Prison right in the doorway. A great sight for Vinny. He sees exactly the window that he needs to grab, and as Citadel Gaming trying to protect Melio to keep him up off the back of that passive, it means 100 Thieves spot blood in the water, able to take first.
But they burn through a lot of time to do it. 3 minutes and 18 remaining. Terra back onto the Phoenix after the reinforcement there. But they already are built up towards an invisible boundary and a God of Mischief. Alex has their own invisible boundary, but they also have that Feast from the Abyss, meaning that they could try and just burst through 100 Thieves if 100 Thieves aren't able to get down that regeneration domain to try and sustain through it.
Well, he's in the back line. Is he going to have people take him down, try and focus on him? In fact, that just hesitation has allowed Tanuki to catch onto Vinny, able to CC him out, pull him in position, and it forces a sign of seduction from TTK. The one ultimate that we saw out first alongside that invisible boundary from Delana, it's both available for Citadel. They're going to go in thick and fast, but Citadel are not feeling threatened enough that they actually want to use these ultimates. They just need to be careful of that Ensong Inferno. They don't know where it is, so the invisible boundary goes down to just make sure that they're protected just in case.
They sustain on through. Terra's going to be punished, picked up by Polly, who keeps the pressure on. Cosmic Cluster is a blow-up onto Millennia as Melio just continues to siege on in. Adam Warlock, while being a strategist, the damage output is actually wild what you can get with this character, especially if you land a full Cosmic Cluster on your opponent.
In here, Tanuki having a Kraken's impact. He's almost inviting 100 Thieves to get a little bit closer, seeing if he can get the hook in, but it doesn't quite connect onto Vinny, who's going to be target number one. You have now got Polly, not in the Captain America, but playing in the same style of just being consistently irritating, alongside with some help from Enzo. This is comfortable for Citadel. It's less than 2 minutes left for 100 Thieves to keep pushing this, and they really haven't made much progression on this second checkpoint at all.
Melio charges up a Cosmic Cluster, just going to send it into a wall, not going to risk getting caught out of the silent seduction. Polly's going to be the first to fall. Invisible boundary, they're just going for a sustain. They can trust Polly to re-engage here. Not burning the Karmic Revival as of yet, but it's Jeff. May force a reaction out of the team here, but no, forced to retreat and used defensively. No one to swallow. It's just to make sure that you get that healing on the board and that Jeff is sustained and safe when he comes out of it.
I think that was a pretty late invisible boundary that was copied over from Harvey. Really wanted to try and make as much as possible and just keep himself somewhere to fight. Now you have the Counter Revival actually being used alongside the Feast of the Abyss. It's going to bring back Tanuki just in the nick of time, and it makes sense because you have got the Kraken's impact on the side of Citadel Gaming. Trying to imprison a little bit just early, potentially. The invisible boundary was still up and it's still comfortable, and now Polly's actually been able to get into the backline onto 100 Thieves.
Tanuki has the Kraken impact to disengage here as the counter invisible boundary from Delana is allowing him to hold through the fight with Alex, Enzo, and Melio all taken down. No more Karmic Revival. It's all about just seeing if you can get any kind of stagger, any kind of trade-off, because there's no way Tanuki's getting away here. He's isolated from his team. He's trapped on this side of the map. He will be going down here. He's incredibly staggered. He was just trying to get one trade out.
Oh, portal play for Enzo, but like you said, you're still waiting for players like Tanuki to come back into the fray. Beast of the Abyss, Polly's very close to having another one. He's been able to throw out so much damage. It feels like it was only 35 seconds ago that we just saw it in play. I don't think it was interrupted either. And you have got a God of Mischief now for Ken. Yeah, he's sort of sitting pretty, able to go in for the work. And Tanuki back into the engagement, gets the pick onto Terra. Silent Seduction forced out early again from 100 Thieves, just as we get into overtime. Still a lot more progress to make, and it's Jeff. Everybody's stacked up, seeing if he can catch people, pull some space, and create some time. Able to grab onto Free, and it looks like he's going to be able to get out scot-free. Citadel can't really chase in this engagement, but Ayabagamoto's going to be used from Enzo on the other side. He connects onto the two players that are left.
Enzo's trying to take this by himself. Here comes Polly for the reinforcement with the Feast from the Abyss. The damage output while the team is zoned off the point. The Vanguard stay and fight. But Terra comes back in with the portal, allowing their team to at least kind of recontest the force physics to push TTK off the point. But they hold, they delay, they crack an impact, and it's going to be a hold. Citadel Gaming stop that cart. The essence of Null is ceased at 1 point, 133 meters.
That second point hold was good from Citadel. It really isn't a map that we've seen much since mid-season finals, and even then, think about the stage one. It didn't feel that Citadel Gaming were ever the kind to go here. Maybe like old Insomnia, for example, when you have that Wolverine team-up throwing Demon across the map. Shout out to Demon, like, you still terrify me from the games that we saw. But here for like 100 Thieves, it was a gamble to try and go here. It's a map that we've not seen Citadel play too much. It's not a map that you've played a huge amount either. 3 wins, 0 losses in stage 2. It's not your like pedigree. So Citadel seeing if they can hold out. All they need to try and hit that line in the sand on their attacking side, and they go 2-0 in their groups.
That's all they need to do, but all 100 Thieves need to do is to simply just stop them. If they can hold them at this first point or partway through that second point, then they are going to be taking that early stage of the group and taking that same lead. And we're looking at Terra. They don't have access to the Winter Soldier, so they choose to go for a more dueling style. They're bringing out the Star-Lord.
There's no access to Hela as well, which...
No.
It's easy, like, the bans are a lot more discreet, I think, in this one. It isn't just like the obvious stuff, really. Going for stuff like the Groot, the Psylocke has been consistent for 100 Thieves. It's a little bit more subtle with their approach, trying to go for characters that they're just not maybe used to like having to draft without, because there's so many common conceptions to work with.
No portal for Citadel. They're just going to walk out manually with Polly leading the charge. Just going to try and cause a little bit of grief, but that's a big hitbox. And while you're able to get out of here safely, you just build up a lot of ult charge for Terra.
It's a little bit scary. Forces out some not too big cooldowns for 100 Thieves on this defense. And Terra's trying to scare him away playing up on the Star-Lord. He only has eyes for Polly, but that like line of sight is a little bit broken. It's a blind spot. Polly's taking a lot of damage though. Has to use that symbiotic resilience in order to stay alive. But I think he sort of screws up. Yeah, he's not able to get the rollout, but he just has enough support, certainly from the regeneration domain that comes in on the side of Ken. That keeps him alive, but that's a big cooldown loss.
And Ken takes out Delena. Ken is actually popping off right now, creating the opening. Enzo gets 2. They're zoning them off the point. That Essence of Null is starting to look pretty vulnerable. Citadel creating the opening. They chase back the fish, trying to prevent Millennia from regrouping with their team and bubbling them back to a point as the Essence of Null is activated, and that's way more time for Citadel.
Paulie wants another crack at 100 Thieves, trying to see if he can go further into the back line. And now for Citadel, 5 minutes on the clock to just push this 100 more meters, which you sort of expect this point if it's going to be held. I haven't seen it held in second for quite a while because we've not seen it in quite a while. It's just before that final choke point. It's still like a 90-degree angle to work with, so it's not impossible for Citadel to set a really good timing here. But losing Terra that early for 100 Thieves is a disaster.
Vinny's going to delay it as best as they can, targeting onto the Venom, and down it goes. Vinny buys time. It's a quick rollout character, but it's given a little bit of time for 100 Thieves to set up. This will help them a little bit, and also Harvey's been able to build up some solid ult charges. They are on that Cloak and Dagger, so now they have the opportunity to make their way back in. Vinny's already basically back, and here's the opening. Tanuki with a double! Triple! Tanuki trying to open it up for Citadel. The cart's moving. They've got 2 people on it. With the time they've created, Terra's onto the strange. They know that's their last chance. Vinny's potentially going to dive this to buy time, but he needs to do it now. That cart's moving. Portal's going to come in. Is it going to be in time? It's so close! Portal comes out for the last possible second. They have its definitely need a bit of extra sustain and the eternal bond from Cloak and Dagger. Harvey, Shades of Season 0 for the extra sustain. Invisible boundary from Alex. Karmic Revival is available off to the side for Melio as they try to find a good position for that revive to hold it. Invisible boundary for Delena, but it doesn't save Terra. And we're starting to see 100 Thieves getting staggered, and Melio's literally just hanging out, just waiting for his team to win or for his moment to shine.
What a POV.
Beast from the Abyss comes on in. Tanuki goes down, which means Revive is about to come on in. Welcome back, Tanuki. It's your turn to potentially take the lead in this group. Tower is down. Harvey is down. 100 Thieves have been robbed of this round. We see Venom retreating onto the point, zoned off the point with the frenzied arrival from Venom. Swings away, and Citadel swing into the lead.
They're so prepared in these fights. 100 Thieves, they go for a gamble on a map we don't see too often. But Citadel Gaming, no matter what meta you force them onto, they want the scrap, they want the reps, they want the time in the server because they can make statements like that. A hell of a turnaround for Citadel Gaming that looked a little bit slow to start with a map loss against Crazy Raccoon, making sure that they end up at the top of Group B with a 2-0 lead.
Citadel Gaming, they started off a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
And that just seems to be the theme for this tournament. But the theme for Citadel in general is they always pull through. They have found so few situations where they haven't. Mid-season finals and Ignite Stage 2 are the only times where Citadel have not been able to take it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And third time with that level of play could be the charm.
And I mean, I'll level with like 100 Thieves fans for this one because there's always like a lot of cope. It's certainly one where like